Hello my good friends, this is Buck Weezer here. You've tuned Buck's Small Engine DIY on YouTube, and I've got a project of a slightly different nature. It is not a project in the small engine category as we usually do, so if this is something that doesn't appeal to you, I apologize, and I promise that within a short time we'll get back to some of the small engine repair videos that we've become accustomed to. It's that we're moving into that time of year where I have, it's the off season. I have less small engine stuff going on. But I do have on my desk a project that might interest you and might be of help to you. What you're looking at is a pair of WARING commercial grade QUIK STIK Plus immersion blenders. These are commercial stick blenders. You might have a stick blender in your kitchen, you use it to, make milkshakes or whatever. Maybe stir up the gravy, I don't know, but these are commercial grade and they are sold at Restaurant Depot, and over the last couple years we bought 3 of them, and we use these. My wife uses these in kind of a unique way. She does not use them in the kitchen. We don't use them for cooking. My wife is a soap maker and she uses these to mix up soap. And she makes a lot of soap. It's a business that we have, and this is my office, which is also a soap room, and I'm just going to give you, don't tell her I'm showing you this. Those are wooden soap molds that she makes the soap in. Here's a bunch of her inventory lining the shelves. So it's a significant undertaking, and these stick blenders are an important tool for her. Problem is, they cost about $250 a piece, maybe $235 at the Restaurant Depot, and I find myself not wanting to keep having to spend that kind of money. And the problem with these is related to the controls, the buttons, the switches. And that's what I want to try to do, because I want to try to get these to work more appropriately, so I don't have to keep replacing them at $250 a pop. And what it is my wife needs to have these controls need to work perfectly to start and stop exactly on key, because the mixing of the soap is very crucial. This button on the top, I'll just give you an overview as a safety. You have to push that first, and then you can squeeze this trigger button. But these buttons often don't work. There's also a high-low selector right here. But what happens, for whatever reason, is the mechanism inside here stops working reliably. And they don't click, or they keep running even after you release the button, or the safety doesn't work. And, these are significant pieces of electric machinery. Just looking at this. 350 watts, it's a half horsepower motor, and my wife just needs to be able to control these very precisely. And so I want to take these apart and see if I can get these controls to work better. Like, that safety seems to be clicking okay, but the trigger button, it's kind of hard. I don't know, we'll have to plug them in and see what they do. So I got 2 broken ones. And then this is the box from the one we bought most recently, and that's still doing fine, so we don't need to give that any attention. And hopefully, this one also developed a significant crack right there. And maybe this will become just something for parts. But I need to take them, open them up, and see if I can get one of these, this one in particular, to again work reliably. That will give her at least 2 good working units. In the past, I have taken this guy apart, and it's a little bit tricky because there's these caps, and I see that I had at one point had drilled them out and then was able to pull them out of there, and then they give you access to screws. Some of the screws are Phillips head, but others are a safety kind, a security kind, because they don't want you taking it apart. Well, I'm going to deal with that too, because I got some security bits with adapter. I got these at Harbor Freight Tools. Enough talk. Let's start taking these guys apart and see if we can get them to work more reliably. Okay, you know what? Before we take them apart, I just want to plug them in and see what they do. See if how they're functioning, operating. So I'm going to plug this guy in. Okay, now this is the one that I told you I had apart before. This button seems really difficult. If you push right here, it's working. Alright, so let's plug him in. Safety, trigger. That was on low, so that worked okay. Okay, so there. Without pushing the safety, I push the trigger and it worked. And so that's not how it's supposed to work. So there's something in this button that's getting stuck. Like, so this won't push now. It's like permanently pushed. So you no longer have that safety. Okay, now it's not working. Safety. So I think what I'm explaining to you and demonstrating is that these buttons, the safety button and the trigger button, are the weakest link in these machines. Motor's good, everything else is good, it's strong. Of course, that cracked. But the problem are these buttons that for whatever reason stop working reliably. And that creates a situation for my wife that is maybe it's unsafe, but it's also unreliable. And when she's in the middle of a soap making event, it's got to be right. So let's see if we can improve on these switches. So once again, I want to drill small holes in these plugs because I can't dig out those plugs very well. But the small hole will allow me to stick a pick down in there and get it. At least that's my hope. Worked before, so. Oh, there, he came out. All right. A couple here as well. Alright, let's see if we can get these out. And it's not easy. There's that guy. He dropped to the floor. Got him. Alright, I'm going to dig these other ones out and then we'll be able to get access to the screws to take the take the top half off. Alright, so with the ones that I have gotten out, you might not be able to tell, some of those are Phillips head screws and, you know, come out very easily with a Phillips head screwdriver, maybe a smaller one like this. But it's like every other one is a different style tip because they don't really want you taking it apart yourself. Small screw. Like so this one down here, which you can't see, but it looks to me like it's going to require that guy there. See him? Little too I think that might be it right there. And without a bit like this, you're not going to have a very fun time trying to take this apart. That's that. And so that's the top of the screw. Okay, so we got it halved here, and my first observation is, sadly, the two posts, of course it's plastic, you know, it's a plastic housing, the two posts that go in there were both broken off. And that explains why, you know, we had this gap at the top. because neither of these two screws were able to do anything. Posts were broken off, rattling around inside there, and there they are. So that's kind of a shame. Now when you look at this guy, again, once I take it in half, the buttons always seem to work better. Can you see that? But there's a lot more flexibility and a bit room for it to move because we took off the top half. So that's a trigger button, and here's a safety. Also seems to work pretty good. With it split in half, they're working great. But when you have the cover on, it's a lot harder to push. And I really have to jam my thumb into it to get it to click. This one up here is okay. So I feel frustrated with that. But that's what I got to see if I can figure out how to improve. Just to make these trigger button and safety button work easier and more reliably. Okay, so after dinking around with this, I'm going to try something. Now what I want you to notice is, so this trigger switch, nice close up there for you. You know, when the machine's, this cover is in half like it is now, this trigger switch works very easily because it can pivot so much. But when the other half of this switch is in this groove, it no longer can pivot easily. And you gotta really squeeze that to get it to work. Now maybe that's how it's supposed to be, but it's just too hard. So I'm going to try something that's a little unconventional. What do I have to lose? It's already broken, right? See this groove here? I'm going to cut off the back of it, which will allow that button more flexibility and movement, and I think that might help. I'm just going to take a pair of snips. Just going to cut this plastic. Just going to cut some of this plastic away. And I think that might give the opportunity for that trigger button to move in this groove a little more freely. So much plastic junk. That's how they do it these days. So much plastic. Alright, so you see where I cut that out? Will that give the trigger button more flexibility to move? Let's put it together and we'll give that a try. Right, I think that really helped. So it's not screwed back together, I'm just holding it together, but this button is not a lot more easy to work now. I think it's still in place. I don't think there's any danger of it falling out. We just made a little more room for it so it can move a little more freely in the handle. Definitely a lot easier to press than it used to be. Alright, so now I'll give my attention to this switch up here, that safety. See if we can make him function a little more freely. Okay, so, you know, the switch works alright, and when it's in half, but when you put it together, again, the movement is so limited, it's hard to push it. So I'm going to, unconventional though it may be, just break off a little bit of this plastic like I did on the other switch, just so that the thing can have a little more opportunity to move. And that's all I did. I just broke off a little bit of that tab. This side I'm not going to touch. It'll still be held in place, I think, pretty securely. But now, when we put the cover on, like that, that's working pretty good. It's clicking on and off reliably, and it's not too hard to push. So I think we got both switches working better and more reliably. Now it's going to be a matter of putting it back together, and I'm going to have to come up with some mechanism to secure the top since those posts are broken. And you know, it's just the plastic on this thing has become its weakest link, and it's a nice item except for that, but plastic is just disappointing. Alright, so let's put it back together. Alright, so I glued the top since we no longer have any plastic posts in there, and I had a clamp, so I'm going to let that dry, and after that this guy should be ready to go back into service. So we'll let it dry and then we'll give it a final test. In the meantime, I guess this one I'm just going to see if I can save some parts off of this guy. Just look at all the plastic, broken plastic pieces that characterize this this piece of equipment. It's just disappointing, you know. And maybe I did a few non-conventional repairs to get some more life out of this one, but what did I have to lose? It was already broken, right? And unreliable. And I can't just go out, you know, and spend another $235 every time, you know, one of these stops working reliably. You know, it's just all this plastic garbage. It's disappointing. Alright, well hopefully we saved a little money and gotten a little life out of this. I'll meet you back here in a bit and we'll test it out. Okay, well it's all back together. I think it feels solid now, and we're just going to test it out. So just pressing the buttons, they press pretty easily now. The trigger, the safety. So to operate it, you press the safety and then the trigger. So it's working pretty good, and I think this is going to give the soap maker a lot more control, because what she's doing is very precise, and she just needs this thing to work more reliably. So I'm pleased with the fact that we got it back together and working a lot better. Excellent. Well, that about wraps it up for today's video. I want to thank you for watching. Just in conclusion, I want to say, you know, it's kind of surprising that this tool, it's a brand named item, it's sold by a brand name retailer, but there's some things you just can't get past. You see that? Hecho in China. It's made in China. And unfortunately, that has come to mean it's going to be an item of lesser quality than you would expect or want. And that's just the unfortunate reality of a lot of products today. And all the plastic that's part of this really is disappointing. I think we should expect something of a better build quality, don't you? I think so. But it's the way it is, and we rescued this one, so now the soap maker's got two of these that, for the time being, are working fairly reliably, and that part's good. If this video is of help and interest to you, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. That really helps me out a lot. And your comments and questions, of course, are always appreciated in the discussion below. Thanks for watching, and remember, only you can put the do in the do-it-yourself. Bye.